Hello again, everyone. Happy Friday. This is Naylo's Thrift Talk. And if you're new to this channel, I'm Lola.
And I'm Nay.
And Nay, why don't you give a little spiel this week?
Okay.
Mommy, say your actual name.
Oh, that was my son. So my actual name, although I go by the nickname Nay, is Nadine, as my son just pointed out. But we are, we believe in sustainability with thrifting, as far as, not just reselling, but helping the environment and also thrifting for ourselves, and the sentimentality of it. Sometimes you get some really amazing stories out of what you thrift, and instead of something going into the waste stream, you're actually, repurposing it. It might be something that someone valued years ago. So, and we will be talking about that today.
Yeah, we have a great example of that today.
Yes, we do.
And so this week we are talking about photo tips. So this is a little bit more of a reseller content heavy week. Some of our other episodes, if you're more of a thrifter than a reseller, are great, information for thrifters in general. But this one is definitely about how to take great photos of the items you thrift to list them on platforms like eBay, Poshmark, and Depop. So we have tons of examples, lots of great tips. And some of them are more intro level. So if you're completely new, I think you'll learn a lot. And then some of them are, I think, things that we've developed over time that we can share with you. And if you're a more experienced object photographer, you still are going to get, I think, a lot of info out of this episode.
Definitely.
So everyone learns a lot. Yeah. But before we get into that, as always, first we have just a little bit of housekeeping. So we have an exciting guest coming up in a couple weeks. Or is that next? Oh my gosh, that's next week.
Next week. Yes, next Friday, 1 week.
Next week is our friend Stacy, who has been in the chat a bunch. So if you've been in the chat or watching the replay, hear us chatting about the people who are in the chat. Stacy is great. She is an expert on a few things, but one of them is luxury fashion, which, as you may know, Nay and I both love, but we also have a ton to learn, and we are super excited to learn from Stacy and to have everyone else learn along with us. So that
we'll be talking about the doll that she's holding in their picture too.
Oh, yeah. So that has a great story.
It has a great story, so you'll have to stay tuned next week for that story.
And now, as always, Nadine, what are you wearing?
Okay, so I am kind of just casual today. I've been running around with my kids and, trying to take care of my kids. And I'm just like kind of a hot mess this morning. So I have on, but I am wearing one of my favorite thrifted t-shirts, which is this Joy Division t-shirt.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so this is one of my all-time favorite thrifted t-shirts. I do like Joy Division. And it was, one of those vintage shirts that I found. It's already like broken in and kind of,
So that's an authentic vintage. It's not.
No, it's not a recreate. I forget what the labels actually. It is vintage. Yeah.
Did you look up how much it was?
No, because I don't want to.
Because then you'd have to sell it.
And I don't want to sell it. It's definitely my shirt. So I've never looked it up, but I'm sure it's worth something because it is actually original. Yes.
Yeah. And I feel like that's one of those items that in the last few years has even picked up more in value. So yeah, don't look that one up. I'll look it up for you.
Exactly. Yeah. You can look it up for me and then just don't tell me.
Anything else? I know you always have.
Well, I do have these are my go-to silver hoops that they're just kind of comfortable. I think I actually slept in them last night. I never took them off, but they are from the shopgoodwill.com. And then my headband is also thrifted. That was in one of those bags with a bunch of hair accessories, but it is breast cancer ribbon. Yes, it's pink. It's a breast cancer ribbon. So
that. And I have been wishing I had more headbands since my hair is growing out and I cannot get a haircut. And I am probably going to be playing with my bangs the entire show because they're like slowly encroaching on my face.
That's funny. Yeah, I just threw myself together this morning. So headbands always come in handy when you're having one of those hair days and you just want to. Plus, I can't stand, like you've seen me probably in one video with my hair down.
Yes, I think I did that one time. Maybe
Yes.
the only time I've seen you with your hair down ever.
Yes. And the whole time I was probably like, you know, it was a few weeks back, but I cannot stand hair on my face. So that's why I wear it. And I also got accustomed to it because my hairline thinned out a lot from the cancer treatment meds I was on. And so although I didn't lose all my hair, it thinned out a lot. So I got used to wearing like headbands to cover. It's been a lot now, but I still like my headbands. Anyway.
Okay, so I'm wearing, we talked about this trend a couple times now, and I think I have 2 tie-dye shirts that I got at my local thrift in Philly before I moved, and they were actually tie-dyed by one of the girls who worked there. So she went through the racks and pulled out some of the linen, I think this one's a linen blend shirts, and then tie-dyed them. And she sold some of them on Instagram, and then she redonated some of them. So
Whoa.
They were actually just in the racks, like regular price. And then I didn't know. I mean, I noticed there were a few of them and I was wondering about it. And then I brought them up to the cash register. And the lady there was like, oh, yeah, this is the woman who did those. And she's so excited that you like them. And I was.
So that's linen, huh?
Yeah. And I did buy them to sell. I'm having a really hard time.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. So, as it's starting to become spring, and right before I moved in the fall, and I donated a ton of stuff that was just, worn out and wasn't something I was going to resell. Some of it I just threw away because it was even past the point of taking to the thrift store. And I just basically got rid of pretty much all my spring clothes because I figure, well, I have several months to buy new clothes and I'll go thrifting and, it'll be an excuse to buy some stuff for myself. Clearly, lately, there has not been a lot of thrifting happening. And now the weather is getting warm. So I'm just sort of like scrounging through my own death pile.
That's the good thing about having profit piles laying around. We have.
Exactly. So, it's just might become my new wardrobe instead of my listings. And then this tank top is actually another thrifted item that you sent me.
Oh, is that one of the ones I sent you? Yeah.
It's from Target, but it has that sort of like the
those new with tags. I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like the 90s minimalist. Like it reminds me actually of a bodycon dress that I have from Reformation that I have to list. So the dress is probably, I'm not sure what the resale on it is, but new it was, $150 at least. And so it's always nice to find those kind of styles at places like Target and then to get it through.
Exactly. How wonderful that goes together. So yeah, that was from, I think I got that at there's a thrift store, a specific thrift store. And actually one of the items that I sold that I'm showing today was from there. They have a ton of Target salvage. It's like insane amounts of Target salvage.
Well, this is like the good Target salvage instead of the stuff that's like,
every once in a while, if I can get them cheap enough there, I will grab them. But
it always bugs me when the like Goodwill price on the Target salvage is higher than the clearance price.
Yeah,
you sell it in store for $2.50. You're not getting $5 for it now. Okay. And now I totally forgot to grab my home decor item, so I'm just going to let you take it this week.
Okay, well, I do have 2, so
and I'll save mine for next week.
So I have, actually, the 2 items I have are kind of funny because they're both items that my kids took out. So I think, my son Declan was thrifting with me a long time ago in Philadelphia, and I said, I'll buy you something if you're good and you can have anything. What does he pick out for his room?
Okay, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, so it is a potted menagerie of glued together seashells that someone made, and he proudly displays this on his dresser. In fact, when I said I wanted to borrow it for the show, he got a little upset, a little anxious, and he said, "You cannot sell that." And I said, "No, don't worry, I'm not going to sell it. I just want to show it to people for the show." Declan, do you want to come over here for a second? You can talk about it. No? Okay, he's right here, but he's too shy. So anyway, this is Yes, so that is that's one of my.
It looks like that long one looks like it could be a nose. Like you could add a couple eyes on the top.
I guess you could. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, you're right. I guess I could put some googly eyes on it or something. But he loves this, so this is part of his home decor in his room.
Good taste.
It's on his dresser. Yes, anything in the thrift store, and this is what he picked. So, and this is a item that I got at the bins, and I thought, maybe I can resell it, and I probably could have gotten maybe $20 at the most for it. It's a hand carved wooden fish.
Ooh, that's
however
cool.
My oldest son saw it in my stash, and he said, "Mommy, can I please have that?" So this is also part of my oldest son, Colin. It's his room decor. It sits on his dresser. And again, I said, "Can I please borrow it for the show?" And he reluctantly said yes. So yeah, so those are, it's kind of funny things, funny pieces, but
good taste though. Those are both really cool. And they're both sort of like nautical themes. So that's neat.
That is true. That's a good point. Yeah. So one sits in one's, they're both decor in my son's rooms, and can't sell them. Especially the fish I was actually going to sell, but that's not happening.
Well, I'm glad it found a good home. So. Yeah. And this is the return of a segment that we don't always do, but we have a great story this week.
Yes.
So, Thrifted History, looking into the history and stories behind some of the objects that we find.
Yes. So our guest back in December, we did a Hanukkah show with our wonderful guest and friend, Zach Portman. And he is a Jewish scholar, and he knows his Judaica items. And, he's very, very well. He's an artist, and he does a lot of Judaica art. And if you haven't seen that show, go back and catch it, because
great show. Lots of information.
Yes. And if you ever need a wedding gift, Zach Portman.
Yes.
At Portman Designs. So anyway, we had this actually ties into Jason's wife, Stacy, too, because she's the original one who found this. I was thrifting with it. This is back in, they had come in to visit, and I went thrifting with them one day in Philly. And so Stacy found, we were at we talk about Philly thrift a lot. I don't know if you've heard us mention that, but they have a sister store, which was originally, we talked about that too, which was originally Giovanni's room, but they salvaged it and turned it into, it's an LGBTQ reading bookstore plus thrift store. So we were all the way upstairs, and there was all the way at the top of the stairs, Stacy grabbed this book, and she said, "Oh, this looks," and she herself being Jewish, she was interested in, she said, "This looks like something, this looks like something that shouldn't be here."
And you had been talking about it too because of the show, right? So it was sort of like on everyone's.
We had just had our Hanukkah show too, which was kind of, so it all was really just crazy how the timing happened. So knowing that I had Zach, that so I messaged Zach, and I said, "Hey, Zach, do you know what this is? Because, we're not sure." So there's the dedication. It says presented to, and then there's the rabbi's name and president of the Central American Rabbi, and it was 1969, 1971, and it was from the executive board. So it was a gift to a rabbi, and I didn't know if it was an actual Torah or, so it's called a Tanakh. Tanakh, I'm probably butchering the name, but which is a bound version of a Torah, basically. But it is a very, very, it's supposed to be treated with respect. It wasn't something that should have ended up in a thrift store, but even all the thrift stores that it could have been.
Yeah, especially one that was presented as a gift for someone who was very distinguished, and
yeah. So what happened, long story short, I and he did a little digging, and he actually, knowing that this was, a very important book, and he had some circles, that he could message people in and whatnot. And he ended up tracking down the family, and the woman, she was.
So first though, was it you or him that figured out that found his obituary and discovered that he served as a Marine chaplain on Iwo Jima.
Yes.
So he had this, incredible history, incredible story himself, and, was an incredible person.
Yes, he really, it was amazing. And I kind of felt, after seeing that, I kind of felt connected to him, and it was like, we have to get this, we have to do something with this book. So the book was $40, and I didn't know what to do. Zach didn't get back to me until I had actually left, and then I was leaving the city and I couldn't get the book. So he tracked down I think it was the niece of, I think she's the niece of the rabbi. She's in the family. And he ended up tracking her down because he did some research, and her name was spelled a little differently. Well, part of the family, when they came over from Ellis Island, their name had been changed. The spelling had been changed, but his branch of the family had not. So definitely her relative. She was thrilled he messaged her, contacted her. She was thrilled to have found this and for it to get, back into the hands of the family. So what I did was I called the thrift store when I got home, Giovanni's room. They were so nice. He knew exactly what book I was talking about. And Lola actually fronted them. So this comes full circle now. Lola's involved. So Lola actually fronted the money and to reserve the book so that it was paid for. And then I went back to Philadelphia. I picked it up and I got in contact. She's actually a Facebook friend of mine now. I'm still in touch with her. Really sweet woman. And she actually, I FedExed the book to her. I sent it to her, packaged it really, really carefully, sent it to her overnight, and she was thrilled to have it. So.
Oh yeah. So this was the information from Zach that figuring out and untangling that the Gittleson was spelled Gettelson for some of the family. So that was kind of a breakthrough to figure out who the family was, and so that was, it was a team effort for sure that Zach did this research, and Stacy first found the book, and Nay was like, oh, I know who to ask. And then, yeah.
And then Lola actually paid for it. And it was like just such a group effort to get this in her hands. And she was very appreciative. She wrote me a very nice note. She didn't feel comfortable to come on the show. I did ask her, but which was not totally understandable. Not everyone wants to be on camera, but she did, she did say that, I could share her story, and she was really, really happy to get it. She sent me a really heartfelt, in fact, when I talked to her on the phone, I talked to her on the phone a couple of times, and she was actually a little teary because it just meant so much to her. So really nice. So that's the kind of thing that we talk about when we talk about, thrifting for other reasons, just, not just reselling. That's just something that's just priceless. You can't put a price on that. You can't, that's just, something amazing. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was kind of wonderful when she said, oh, well, how much do you want for it? And she was obviously willing to pay, more than what the bookstore wanted for it. And we were like, no, of course not.
No, we were not looking for profit on it. Yeah. So she just paid the price that we paid plus shipping, and that was it. And we did not, we were not looking to profit on it. We just wanted to get it to the rightful owner Yeah.
So that was definitely one of my favorite thrifting experiences, even though I wasn't even there.
Yes, but you were involved
from the store as it was happening.
Yeah, even the manager at Giovanni's room, like he was like, I want when you come in again, I want to talk to you. He ended up not being there when I picked it up, but I had a nice phone conversation with him, and he was just awestruck about the whole history and the story. So
yeah,
and they didn't know how it came. It came sometime in the summer. It was donated. They don't know who donated it or how it ended up at the thrift store, and the family doesn't know either. It's like a mystery.
So they don't have like family in New Jersey or something that.
No, they really didn't know how it had ended up here. So really strange.
Yeah, but now it's back home, so that's great.
And my dog again is gonna.
And my cat is also at the door, so I'm hoping he opens up, but you might hear some yowling in the background.
Okay. So let's get into our.
And on that animal-friendly note, 10 photo tips. So we are going to just dive right in, I guess.
Yeah. So my first tip is to be creative and innovative with what you have. So basically that means, so I have a mannequin, and I actually have it behind me. So I have two bodies for my mannequin, so that I can change her. Put her on a stand. Sometimes, like for black and solid items, this works. I actually am going to order a sleeve too, which kind of changes it up a little more too.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, so that
the whole mannequin.
that pattern can get a little contrasting when it's not with a plain item. But this isn't really my go-to girl. It's this because she's kind of neutral. And so what I have is I have her on a stand, but I multitask with my stand. I can take it apart, and I have this head for my hats when I sell my hats, and she actually fits perfectly up there. So I can take my photos. Paddington. I'm so sorry. He wants to go out the door. Can you open the door? Of all things, it's not my kid, it's my dog. So yeah, so when I take pictures, so there you go. I have a nice stand for my hats, for my mannequin. And then I also will take pictures of purses on the stand, and I have a ring light, which I'm using. Actually, I use it for my YouTube shows. It's right here, and that also fits nicely on the stand. So kind of, just really multi-purposing with my mannequin stand. So if you have one like that, you can use it for multiple. There's my setup. There's my mannequin with the stand, and there is my ring light attached to it. And I can take pictures with that. And I do have a second mannequin stand too. I don't have both of them always set up because just for space, but I can use that as a kind of as a ring light stand, and then back my other mannequin stand up and take pictures of clothing on my mannequin too, so or other items.
Yeah, and I noticed that the stands that are sold with the light kits that you can find on Amazon are also pretty interchangeable, so you could do a similar thing with those. And when I asked around to some of my family members, like my aunt and my grandfather were both downsizing at the same time, and so I inherited all of this photography equipment that they didn't want anymore, and it included some of those stands. And so now I have extra, so I could get more
great.
I wanted to.
By all means, if you can go buy things like that, but with me, like I'm limited on space, so I'm kind of just innovative, and I just
of course.
So yeah, so this way I can
but so it also pays off to just ask around to friends and family if they have things that you could use that they might not want anymore, and then it's a win-win. So
yeah,
my family were super happy to get all the photo equipment off their hands. And I also don't have a ton of space, but I do have enough in this room when I'm not using the space for my ironing board to make masks, that I can set up more lighting in here.
Right.
Although, as one of our next tips we'll talk about, I try not to if I don't have to.
Yeah. So I have a couple more pictures there, and
so
there's a stand with a purse on it, and then here's what I will do with a purse to get some pictures. So there you go. So there's the close up of it, and then when we talk about editing, I can remove the background, and so that you don't see it's not bad with the pole, but you don't have to have the pole in there, and it kind of creates a nice crop picture there. Yeah. So. And then I also will use different. So okay. So this is I do have a male Manny, but I don't always use him. A lot of times, what I will do is just turn my female Manny around so that you don't see her chest, and I'll take pictures of both the back and the front on her back of men's clothing. So there's two examples that I did on my female mannequin of the men's clothing with her turned around. So
that's a great tip.
Yeah. So it's a quick shortcut. I don't have to get out my male Manny, and because he's a hanging one, and so in a pinch I can just do that, and it's a great photo.
Well, speaking of hanging, so I don't have a male mannequin at all, but I do love using the command strip hooks because they're so easy to put up and take down, and they're strong enough to easily hold even like a heavier piece of clothing. So I will just, I take a lot of my female clothing on the mannequin, but if I have a piece of male clothing, then I'll put it on a hanger and just take it against the wall.
Yeah.
And, you know, I usually just leave a hookup, you know, if I'm doing a lot of photos, but if I want to, I can easily just take it down, doesn't damage the wall. So those are always one of my like toolkit items that I have on hand. And most people, I think, probably have some around the house already. So
yeah. And also this is a tip from Jason. Actually, he uses the packing air pillows inside bras to fill them up. So you can do that. And you can also take hair clips, like the banana clips or bag clips, to hold down tags and tack clothing and whatnot. So there's a lot of tricks. Tape on a tag so that your finger isn't there. That's another Jason tip. And someone else, I actually had heard I think it was in the thrifting board or somewhere, mentioned that if you put a coin inside a double-sided tag, to hold it down.
Oh, that's a great tip.
Yeah, that you can take yours, so don't, you know, so that you don't have your hands in the photo holding the tag. And then I've also used a pillow belted to my mannequin, my female mannequin. Just put a pillow, like a throw pillow belt on her, and to take pictures of maternity clothing. So instantly makes her pregnant. So yeah. So, and then you can also use a stool as a stand and put a white sheet over it, or a chair, you know. So there's a lot of things that you can, you know, just think outside the box, think about what you have, and just be creative. I used to actually, you know, be creative with the backgrounds that you have too in your house, you know, like if you have an exposed brick wall or something. And we'll talk about that a little later in one of the other tips, but there's a lot that you can do to, you know, be creative. So
absolutely. Angelique has a great question. She wants to know if you like your ring light, and do you only use it to light stuff?
So here's the thing, and we're gonna actually, this is a great segue into our next tip, because I do not have a fancy lighting setup. I use mostly natural lighting. Take advantage of natural light. That's our next tip. And so I don't usually use my ring light. The reason I bought the ring light was actually for YouTube. So that's the reason I actually got it. But I have found that in a pinch, when I can't take photos during the day, most of the photos I'm fine with natural light. I take them during the day. I have a lot of great lighting. But if I can, in a pinch, I have used it, you know, to take photos at night too. So use it mostly just for YouTube, very minimal use, but I do occasionally use it for, yeah.
Yeah.
And it does take good photos. It does really light well. So
I also, you know, early on when I was starting to get serious about selling on eBay, I did buy a light kit, and I'll pull it out if I need to take pictures after dark, especially in the winter when the days are short. But no matter how carefully I set it up, I feel like the photos just do not compare to the quality you get with natural light.
Yes. So here's the thing. It's really crucial to have the best lighting possible. And the best source of light is the sun. And it's, you know, it's free. It doesn't take up any space. You don't have to pay for it. You know, it's the sun. So I don't have like I said, I don't have an elaborate photo setup, but I do take advantage of the afterlight, and we really don't need to go and buy the expensive equipment, especially if you don't have the room for it. And here's a photo that I took right outside of my deck. And, you know, that's natural light. I did not adjust that photo, you know, nothing. And you can see, you know, you can see that it's
picking up a lot of the detail on the thread.
Yeah, exactly. So, and, you know, I think, you know, I take a lot of photos outside of my deck, but I don't take them in direct sunlight. That's the one thing that you have to, because direct sunlight can be too harsh and it can cast shadows. So you don't want to do that. So like on sunny days, I know that around 3 p.m. my deck gets some indirect sunlight. And the best thing that you can do is, this was yesterday. I took a bunch of photos yesterday. It was a perfect overcast day. I love overcast days because that is the perfect light. It's a little diffused, still brightly lights everything, but you're not going to get the shadows from the bright sunlight. So this is the best time to take pictures on a day that looks just like that.
So if you're not used to photography, it can seem a little counterintuitive that you think you want the most light for the best photos, but actually a slightly overcast day or even a fairly overcast day like this one is better. And one thing that you can do to make sure you're getting the best light is to, you know, take, like, say, a test object. So you can compare photos, take it in different parts of your house, take it
absolutely.
on your deck, on your front porch, whatever you have. And also different times of day when the sun is in different places, and then figure out what works best for you. And so that might be the one part of your listing that you do have to schedule out and know that, like, what did you say, like 3 p.m. on your back porch?
Yes,
like,
I know the exact time. And I also know, like in my room upstairs here, this is the room I'm in right now is the most brightly lit in the house. It's got 3 windows and, you know, it gets great light. And what I have though is and I can actually turn my thing a little bit here so you can see that window shade there. It's actually a transparent window shade. It's paper. It's an accordion pleated shade that actually can go up and down, so I can get some lighting at the top of the window, if you can see. And I have this on all of them, but it still diffuses the light enough that if it's a really bright sunny day and I have a lot of sun coming in, I can pull the shade up to block the bright sunlight, but still get that nice diffused sunlight in the room. So that is, I actually use, again, using what I have there. In my old house, I had a beautiful upstairs room that it was an upstairs, the whole top floor was a suite, lots of lighting. You saw that room, lots of lighting. And I love taking pictures up there. But here I've got another brightly lit room but I use the window blinds as, you know, kind of diffusion when I need to. So, and the thing about natural light too is that it shows flaws best, which you want to see the flaws. You don't want to hide them, because when you're selling items, you know, if you have a little rip or a pull or something, you want to highlight that. You want it to show up. I've taken photos outside, you know, of things, and I haven't noticed the flaw until I took it in the natural light, or I looked at the photo after and I said, oh, wait a minute, I missed this. So, you know, and also it's the way to get the most accurate color in the natural lighting, you know. Incandescent lighting and whatnot, that can really, you know, the fluorescent lights, you know, whatever, non-natural light can really distort the colors of items. So. And also, bonus tip, never, ever, ever, when you're taking pictures for listing, never use the flash on your camera, never. It will distort the light. It will create, you know, unwanted shadows and glares, and you don't ever use the flash.
In general, I try to avoid using the flash. You know, if I had a professional photo set up and I was using it, it's totally different.
That's different. Yes, like a professional. I'm talking about like the flash on your iPhone.
Yes. So, but even for just like my own, you know, for my own personal photos, I definitely mostly turn it off. Yes. And Angelique says, our cameras can see things our eyes miss. Absolutely. And I think also when you're looking at something critically in order to take a picture of it, you're looking at it in a different way than even like when you're looking in the thrift store and you're deciding whether or not to buy it. Yeah. You're more in tune to those details. And so you're more likely to notice that faint stain or that small moth hole.
Exactly.
It's a great time to just really be in tune to every little detail.
Yes. So, and our next tip is to edit your photos, but don't over edit them. Yes. So I take all of my pictures with my iPhone. So the iPhone or any smartphone has some great features built right in, and you can get some great apps for editing. So I don't even have to go to my computer. I am a graphic designer by trade, so that probably enhances my photo skills a little. And I can use Photoshop. I'm very well versed in Photoshop, but I don't ever use it because I can do everything on my phone. So this is an example of a jacket that I took a picture of right here, and behind me, this is the wall. I use double closet doors, you know, because they're neutral. So I took this, and it was a little bit of a, you know, it was a little dark. It was a little later in the day, so the photo came out a little bit dark. So I went into my camera and into my phone, and I use an app called, it's Photoshop Express. You do have to pay for it, but it's not expensive, and it's really worth it. And so but you can do right in your photo app, right in your camera app on your iPhone or on whatever smartphone you have. There are going to be editing features. You can crop, you can, you know, add light and contrast. You do not need some fancy app or software. You really don't. So take advantage of what you have. Now I cropped this a little bit so that you can see that it filled the square better. I didn't need that bottom part of that pole, and there was some extra space. So I cropped it right in Photoshop Express. I added a little light, a little contrast and brightness. And then I went into an app called Magic Eraser, which takes out the background. And there are many, many apps that do this. You do not need Magic Eraser. And I easily I clicked on it very, very quickly, because it was a neutral background, very minimal editing, got the background out, and voila. It maybe took me 2 minutes to edit that photo to get from point A to point B. So.
Yeah, and that's especially for an all black piece of clothing. It's so hard to get those details, to be able to see like, oh, it has pockets on the front. It has that one button.
Yeah, and you can't really see the details as much in the first photo, so you can see the difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, so definitely, and it's better not to use, one other thing, it's better not to use the zoom feature on your smartphone or camera, because that can blur and distort it a little bit. It can degrade the quality a little. So what I do is I take a closer up photo, and I use this, like this would probably be my second photo for the jacket. I take a closer up photo and then I crop it. So use your crop tool. That's very, very valuable. So it was a little, it wasn't this centered in, and I cropped in on the front of that jacket to get that detail. And the zoom, yeah, so definitely, and also take your photos in a square format to begin with. If you don't know how, it's very easy to figure it, especially on an iPhone, there's a square format. Mm-hmm. Then you don't have to worry about, you know, you can do some extra cropping, but you don't have to worry about, you know, because Poshmark, for example, only, and all of the online venues, square photo is the format, but Poshmark will crop it for you, and you don't want that. You want to be able to crop it yourself. So
absolutely.
And then, yeah, the Magic Eraser app, I said Photoshop Express, and you know, so there's a lot of different apps out there. Those are the two that I use, but again, there's a lot. And then you can also use, so don't over edit. So here's an example of something that, you know, I removed the background of and all, but this was a wrinkly jacket to begin with. That's the kind of fabric it is. So I didn't want it, like if I had, you know, airbrushed out some of those wrinkles and all, it wouldn't have shown the true item. So don't airbrush out, like don't edit out, you know, flaws in an item. Don't make the item look better than you want to. It's better to under promise and over promise, and then have a disappointed buyer, definitely. So you want to show the item true to color, the flaws, everything. Now there is a photo touch up tool in some of these apps, including Photoshop Express. I would use that. What I use that for is if I missed a piece of lint, you know, that obviously it's not going to get sent to the buyer with that piece of lint, so they shouldn't expect it with that. Or if there's like a scratch on the wall or something, you know, behind, you know, something like that, you can edit out, but don't actually edit. You know, you want the item to be as true to the item as possible. So yeah. And you can also edit so much that too, like with the brightness and contrast, you get it like too, you know, blinded out, you know, so.
Yeah. If you're adjusting the color.
Uh-oh, Lola froze, it looks like. I don't know if, okay. Lola is going to probably have to leave and come back, I guess. So anyway, with flaws, the other thing with the flaws is that you can actually, like, if you see a flaw, you can actually, you know, circle it or put an arrow over top of it to highlight that flaw. So that's another thing that, hopefully Lola's going to come back in. And yeah, am I frozen too, or am I frozen, or is it just Lola? Hopefully it's just Lola. Okay, she'll pop back in. But anyway, so yeah, so the point is, you know, definitely don't over edit, but also, you know, use the edits. You definitely use the features right in your phone. If you don't use a phone to take your pictures, I highly suggest that you do, because it's, you know, you can use a digital camera, but then you're going to end up, you know, editing on having to do your edits on a computer, and that can be cumbersome. So even if you have an iPad, you can do all your photos on the iPad too. It doesn't have to be a smartphone. You can use any device like that. So
am I back?
Okay, yeah, you're back. I'm sorry. I
No, you're fine. I don't
know if it was you that froze or me, but
yeah, my Wi-Fi just quit on me for some reason.
Okay.
So
well, and then I guess I finished. Was there anything you wanted to add to that tip?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say, like, you know, if you're say you're editing a photo for Instagram, you might pump up the saturation or something to make it really pop, and that's great. But you want to be careful that you don't, when you're doing object photography, that you're really matching what it looks like in real life. So
Yeah,
what you're really feeling on the screen might actually be misleading to a buyer. So just to keep that in mind, that your goals might be a little bit different than if you're editing a photo for social media.
Definitely. It's good to have the item at hand to actually look at it in real life. So yes, don't change the actual item and details. That's what Angelique says.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, okay. So my another tip is to make a collage for your first photo. So you can show multiple views in your first photo. So this is especially useful for Depop, which only has a 4 photo limit. You can put videos into Pop, but 4 photos, that's not a lot to. So if you have an item that you need to show the back and front, here's an example of a jacket that I have listed on Depop. First photo, both sides of that jacket, the back and front, have a lot of detail. So I put this photo up on, and I added a little border to it because it's Depop and it can make it a little more funky. And so there's and I do this there's a lot of apps that you can do this with. But I do mine in Photoshop Express. There's a collage feature where you can, 2 seconds, bam, you can do this. So, and you can pick the format. You can do a square format easily. So it's useful for Poshmark when you're showing brand tags, like if you want to or other. So this is an example of a listing that I have up on Deposh. There's my first photo on Poshmark.
You say Deposh. I love it. We should just start saying that now.
That's
when
great.
We're talking about like multiple platforms. We'll call it.
I think I just coined a new term. Yeah. So there is an example of something I have up on Poshmark that is new with tags, and I wanted to show that it was new with tags. It's just Chico's isn't really that, but it's a Chico's the Energy item that has and I wanted to show the original price tag, in the first picture. Hopefully that'll entice buyers. So there you go. That's what I did with. And Poshmark and Depop and Etsy, you can get a little more creative than, eBay likes that white background and they, and you do get 12 photos with eBay. So it's not as necessary, but here's an example of a Dolce & Gabbana skirt that I have up for sale. Very expensive Dolce & Gabbana. It is not one of their diffusion lines. So I wanted to make sure that with the tag that you saw that it is the more expensive Dolce & Gabbana line, not the DNG diffusion line. And I showed a close up of the fabric and one of the buttons on it. And that's my first photo. So
yeah. So on the subject of eBay still will actually help up your item in search if you have more photos, if you have the full 12 photos, correct? Yes,
that is correct. Yeah, you want to make use of your 12 photos, but right. Poshmark only allows you 8. I forget how many Mercari. I haven't listed a lot of Mercari. I've had like 3 sales on Mercari so far, but Mercari has, I believe they have less too, and also, I don't know about Etsy. I'm into start, but with Etsy, Poshmark, and Depop, basically those 3, you can get really creative. Like those are the sites that kind of encourage the creative photos. eBay with your 12 photos, you can just do like the white background. So
yeah.
And then we have, I think I have a few more photos.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is the Machino skirt that I have. Now this is the Cheap and Chic line, which is they're not a lower end, but it's not the top tier. And so I wanted to show that it was that label, that it is authentic. And so I showed that detail, and that's my first photo. And I do feel like I get more interest in the items that I do this with. So some items you don't need to, if it's not like a high-end brand or something, but it's good for these type of items. So
yeah, definitely. And I love that detail. You can really see the weave of the fabric and the detail of the fray at the hem.
Yeah, so you want your listings. There are so many listings, you want them to stand out. This is a way to get them to stand out. If I had just had that skirt, on a mannequin, maybe with, poor lighting and whatnot, or just slapped on the floor as my first, I don't think that it would get as much interest as,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think there's something about this too that just says like, this is a serious seller. This seller knows what their buyers are looking for, and, take a closer look because this is a quality item.
Exactly. So, and then there's an example of another one that, I think the back shows is more exciting than the front of this vest. So I wanted to show the back and the front in the first photo. So there's another one that I did. And you can do this with other items too. Like if you have a glass or a salt and pepper shaker set or something that has, like you can show one with the front and one with the back if you have a pair of items too. So
totally.
And yeah, so, and then, this is our next tip. Yeah.
Well,
So yeah. So you want to show close-ups of prints, fabrics, flaws, and all of the tags, including brand, care, size, and fiber content tags. This will save you. Not only is the buyer, getting more information, a lot of times they don't read the description, and let's say they're looking for, they thought the sweater was going to be wool and it's acrylic, and they didn't realize that, this is just probably a poor example, but they can look at the photo of the tag and see what it is. They can see, you don't get a disappointed buyer saying, oh, I didn't know it was dry clean only. I want to return it. So it will, lessen your return rate, help the buyers to make better informed decisions. I see so many listings that don't have the fabric and care tags in them, or even the brand tags, so you definitely want to add those. Show details of the fabric. And this is how I'll do like a close-up. This is the Philip Lim for Target skirt that I have. I do a close-up of there's an example of one that I did for, this is the Banana Republic shirt. And this print is so fantastic, but you can't really tell what it is from far away. So I zoomed in and I did another, collage pic for the intro, but I zoomed in really tight on those glasses so you can really see the print. So
that's a great example of when to show the fabric.
And here's an example of a listing I have on Depop. Again, first photo, I showed a close-up of what of the fabric and the tag, and there's the item. But when you zoom out on the item, you really can't see what that print is, so you kind of need that detail.
And then great example of a care tag.
Yes. So zoom in tight on those so that they're big, so that you can read them well. Don't make it tiny little inside a big square. So
yeah. And one thing I wanted to mention, because I actually just been noticing this a lot the past couple of days, I've been looking for fabric on eBay. And if you're looking on mobile and there's a very long description, eBay will, based on some algorithm that's probably trying to be smart, pick out a couple lines and turn that into the description on the mobile listing. And it is hilarious because it usually makes no sense. It's like a Dada poem, and it's a bunch of jumbled words mixed together that you don't know, if you're not more seasoned buyer. If you click on the description, then you get the old-fashioned listing with all the like HTML and there's paragraphs of information and buyer's policies. And so obviously you don't need all of that. Don't do that anymore. But also, if you're including all of this information just in the description, it can really easily get lost.
Exactly. So photos tell the story. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you have to remember, these people, like buyers can't go, they're not going into a store and, buying something. So this is the closest they can get to actually touch and feel and see, your eyes have to be your hands, and, so they can't feel the fabric, but they can look at it. If they have a zoomed in photo, they can tell like, oh, this is a knit fabric versus, a felted wool, or, this is something like that. So
absolutely.
So there's an example of a decidual dress that I have up on Poshmark, and I took a photo. These are some of the photos I would take for the dress. I took a close in of the torso, a little off angle, and then I took that's the whole dress. So if I just took that, you wouldn't see that detail that in the torso. And then I also showed a really, really close up of the fabric, so you can see the texture of the fabric. You can see that it's a little sheer and layered, and you can see the print really well. So that's what you want to do.
Especially for a brand like this, where the buyers are looking for those really bright prints and the different textures combined together, and so they can get a better idea of what this garment is, because it's definitely not your typical dress.
Sure. Yes, exactly. And okay, and a couple little quick notes is that brand tags can help a buyer authenticate and date items. They're, especially like with St. John buyers, they can be really picky. I have a return coming from St. John because because of this, but and I did include all the information in my St. John, but but if I hadn't, maybe I would have, gotten an angrier buyer, because I hadn't included certain details. So
or returns on items that you don't know about because
yes.
prevented
So
it.
yeah, so it helps buyers make an informed decision. And then also the other thing is size information on the inside of shoes. I see a lot of people that don't put that information. Definitely do that, because otherwise you can have people saying like, oh, it was really a this size, or they were mismatched sizes. It can happen. You're covering yourself and giving the buyer the most informed experience as they can have. So
Absolutely.
and then our next one is to color correct. And
that's what I've said before.
Yeah,
I thought it was its own.
But so here's an example of a bag that I have. This is a Luella for Target bag, and I took the photo. It was a little darker out, and reds can be tough, and so can blacks. Actually, reds are one of the hardest colors. So it looks kind of, in the original photo, it looks kind of orange. It doesn't look really, but it's really a bright red, with a bright blue and brown. So all I did was, tweak the color balance a little bit in Photoshop Express, and I had the item in hand so that I could look at it in real life to kind of match the color, and look at how much better it pops, after I color adjusted it.
Yeah. And I think it's just a good thing to remember that editing a photo, I think in this, social media age, we think of it as like adding filters and kind of like masking what it really looks like, but you can really use editing tools to make them truer to life and to match your experience of how you see it in person as well as possible.
Yes, have the object in hand and color correct against that. Lola, you suggested using a crayon or something like that.
Yeah, I've definitely seen this tip I think maybe on the thrifting board, a few different places, where if you have a color that is really hard to capture, the best thing you can do is use an object that someone might have in their own home. So if you have like a Crayola crayon, and someone could grab their kid's crayon box and say, oh, this is the color, and this is what it, this is the one that the seller thinks is closest to this color. Yeah. So that's great for, for reds like this. And then for objects like if you're selling fabric or yarn, where like the color really matters to someone who's looking for a very specific shade for a project, things like that can be really useful.
So I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I went to art school. And when in my art school days, I remember the Pantone swatch books. We actually had to buy the fan, which was hundreds of dollars. It was ridiculous, and I had to get it like every semester, because it was like, I don't know if but every couple of years I had to buy a new one because the color would like fade. You had to keep it like in dark, and I used to match though against the Pantone swatches, and I don't recommend that, but taking something like a crayon, or just, trying to match your actual item. Also, Photoshop has a white balance option. This is a little advanced, but if you are using Photoshop on a computer and you know how to use it, there might be if you do little research, there might be some other apps or software that have
does Photoshop Express doesn't have it? Because I think like Visco has it. I think it might actually be built into the photo app on iPhone now, because they've added a lot of features to it.
Yeah,
I don't use the native photo app, but I think it may have that now.
Yeah, so that's helpful too. And then, if you don't, you don't want to not have a buyer, thinking that the shirt is going to be green and it comes to them and it's brown. You don't want that. So, be real, especially when it comes to clothing. So, and also make sure your color is consistent throughout all the photos. Take them all in the same light so that you don't have it looking too different. Which one is it? Don't do that either. And then,
I have seen some listings say things like, and I think I've done this before too, because I'm lazy sometimes, like, oh, color is closest to the first photo or something. I mean, if that's true, it's better to then adjust your photos to match.
Adjust all of them to match. And the best idea for that is to take them in consistent lighting. And like we talked about, natural light. Don't take, 2 of your photos in the middle of the day and then 2 of them at night under your, bedroom light as lighting, because they're going to look 2 different colors. So take them all consistently and make sure they're all consistent.
Another thing you can do is just to make sure that, so this is a little bit more advanced photography, but if you've ever used a film camera, you may have learned about light metering and how you might want to use a gray card, so like a neutral color to light meter against before you take the photo.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that, yeah.
So I meant you as in our viewers, because I know we have...
No, yeah.
Yeah. We have a large range of ages, and so some people may be more familiar with old school photography. I love film photography as a hobby, so this is something that I've learned as a hobby and brought over to my selling. But
absolutely,
your camera is also light metering, just like the old school cameras are. So sometimes if your camera is reading a darker or a lighter part of an object, it's going to react differently and adjust the color in the frame differently. Absolutely. So one thing you can do to avoid that is basically just make sure that you are pointing the camera when it's first light metering to the same place and the same shade, so it's consistent throughout. Because I definitely get frustrated with this sometimes, where you're taking the the photo from back and it's perfect, and then you zoom in, or you step forward to actually take a photo closer up, and suddenly it's all washed out, and that's why.
Good point. Our next tip is to take time to prep items, and this was Lola's tip.
Yes. So I have talked a little bit about in the past few episodes about how I'm trying to really streamline my process. And so this is a tip that I need to take my own advice, but I'm working on it. It is so helpful to just take the time to make sure you have a batch of items ready. So steam them. I think the steamer that I bought, it's a Rowenta, and I got it on sale online, which, if you wait it out, you can find it online.
Yeah, I did my steamer, so you can thrift them too.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap, but it was worth every penny. If you thrift a steamer, a lot of times they are donated because they get some sort of like hard water buildup inside them.
Yeah, mine is okay, but it's not it's I forget the brand. I can't remember the brand, but it's a good one. But it was like new old stock when I got it.
Well, that's perfect. Yeah. So, in the past I've gotten the handheld ones, and I just had to like run it through with water and vinegar, and so it can help clean out the inside. So sometimes people don't realize that, and just
handheld. Yeah.
I finally did invest in a stand-up one, which is just so much easier to use. But so, what I try to do is I'll take a batch of, say, dresses, and I'll steam them, I'll lint roll them, I'll put them up on my rolling, blanking on the word, clothing rack.
Okay.
Rack, yes. And then I just have them ready to go. So, and then I can easily just go through 1, 2, 3, 4,
That's a good idea. Yeah.
And take them all at once. And so doing those extra steps in the end saves time, because I don't have to worry that, I need to stop and find my lint roller, or I find that one is super wrinkled and there's no way I can just take photos the way it is. It's already all done, and I can just keep going.
Yeah. So
I lint roll everything.
Yes, lint will show up, especially if you have animal hair. Animal hair can be a deal breaker for people because they're allergic. They don't, people don't like animals, whatever. And it does look nasty. If I get something, if I buy something online, it comes with animal hair, it's gross. It's not. So, and we do both. Lola and I have animals. I have 2 cats and a dog and some furry tarantulas. But keep your items away, obviously, from your. But stray hairs happen, So definitely lint roll especially black. And if you're taking your photos in natural lighting, it will show every single piece of lint and animal hair that's on.
Yeah. So what I do, this is one of my solds, is once I've photographed it and I've carefully lint rolled all the cat hair off, I put them in these plastic bags.
Good idea, yes.
And then before I ship them, I take them out of the bag again, just do one more look over, make sure there's no cat hair. I can already there's cat hair on the outside of this. I don't want to send that to the buyer.
Yeah.
So.
And I think we're going to do a whole show sometime on cleaning. So we're not going to get into all the techniques, but like a magic eraser for sneakers, definitely clean your sneakers off, polish your shoes. It's and especially for like items like collectibles that can get dusty during storage, dust them off, things like that, because that will show up in the photos. Yeah. And then I have a clothes shaver for the pilly lint and sweaters. That is just
another great wonderful box. Yeah. And I've started keeping all of these items in one drawer in the guest room, which is where I keep most of my inventory. So, I can do a bunch of shoes, and I bring out the leather conditioner and the magic eraser, and it's all just together. So it takes that much less time just to get through them, get them ready to photograph, and then photograph them all together.
So another thing is remove the marker prices on shoes, and then get the as far as the Goodwill barbs and prices, remove them before you take your pictures, because You don't want accidentally for a Barb or a Goodwill price to be in the picture, you know, and not notice it. Or, and this is also a great time, if you remove it before you take your photos, then you don't have to worry about accidentally shipping something with a Goodwill tag and having a buyer that just paid $50 for something that has a $1.99 sticker on it. They're not going to be happy.
Oh yeah. I remember one time I bought a pair of shoes from a local vintage seller, and I got them home and they had what was definitely the Goodwill Sharpie price on the bottom. And I mean, it was like $3.99, and I paid maybe $20 or $30 for them. And so, you know, I would have been annoyed if I hadn't been happy to support a local store, but I was like, I definitely shop at the same Goodwill that you do.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, us as resellers, I don't think would mind as much, but other people that are not resellers, they're going to care. A lot of people don't even realize that we go to thrift stores and buy things, you know, and they're like appalled so you don't want that to happen. But anyway, the point is definitely remove all of that before you take and prep your items well so that you get a better photo. So. And then our next tip is when include every piece in the first photo. So yeah, so this is an example. These are not new in box, and I did mention that, but when they were donated with the original box or like new. So I put the box in the picture so that people knew they were getting the box, you know, rather than just take the shoes and then the next picture of the box, you know, that's my first photo with the box. So, you know, another, you know, for clothing. So this is Jason's photo. He let me borrow this, and this is actually a tip straight from him. So when he has a board game, he will show all the pieces are there when it's an open board game. So this shows that all the pieces are there, the manuals, the instructions and everything are in it. And he lays it out in the first foot rather than just showing just the box. Like that doesn't really show you what you're getting. Mm-hmm. So especially when it's or if you have a puzzle, take it, and it's an open puzzle, do the puzzle and show it complete.
Yeah, I've done that for puzzles, and I think I mentioned before that my spouse loves doing puzzles, and so it's the perfect thing because I'll get a puzzle, give it to them, they'll do the puzzle.
Yeah, enjoy doing the puzzle. I've given Chris so many puzzles, and you're like, you'll send me a picture the next day, like, look, it's already done. So it's really funny, but that's and then Jason also. Am I echoing?
A little.
Okay. What's going on? So Jason also mentioned that this is another Jason tip. So with a board game, take it out and set it up as if you have like 4 players in the middle of playing it, and take a picture like it's mid-play. You know, so yeah, exactly. So this is another photo that he gave me last night to use. So. And also, if you have like a camera, you can just take the camera and with a bag, show the user's manual, show the manual, show the camera, show the lenses, lay everything out, all the pieces. There's an example of, I have a set of, these are older, it's an older set of, it's a coffee press with a creamer and sugar. And I have the original boxes. So I took it with the original boxes with them out, instead of just taking a picture, you know, like show everything that they're getting.
You also did a great job with the angle on this because they're completely reflective all the way around, but you didn't put yourself in the reflection. So
I'm trying to not get myself. That's another further tip. I did actually use there's a little of reflection, but I did use a little bit of the rubber stamp tool in Photoshop Express. And I took it, when I take it, like I hold it out. I have a selfie stick for my phone. And sometimes I will actually use, that's another tip, I will actually use that so that my face isn't in there, so that I'm reached out when I take the photo like that. If I have something reflective, so.
And that's sort of related to our next tip, which is to get your background right.
Yes. So yeah, so here's an example of, so if you take your photos on a neutral background that can be easily taken out, you can edit your background. So here's an example of that vintage pony zip up jacket that if it's on a white background, the edges of it kind of get lost. It really doesn't do anything, but I put it on a red background. Now, this isn't something I want to put on a black background either. This is, maybe a gray background would work, but the red really made it pop. So, there's an example of changing out your background. You can change your backgrounds easily with the Magic Eraser app too. Mm-hmm. So And there's an example. I have actually this is a background that I bought from eBay really cheap. It's like a 5x7, you know, just it's not paper, it's like shower curtain material, like vinyl. And it is, you know, just the back. So I use that for my photos sometimes. Here's an example of a pair of booties that I took outside on my deck, laid the background on, and I just took the picture. And that really makes them pop. So different colors sometimes.
It makes them look so expensive too. Like this is something that would totally catch my eye on Poshmark. And just imagine, Angelique mentioned perceived value in the chat just a little bit ago, and this is a great example of that. Like, imagine these booties on the rack at Goodwill where they look like they're worth $5.99, and here where, oh yeah, I'll totally give you like $45 for these.
Exactly, yeah. Yep. And I had in my old house, which I miss so much, I might go back and take some more photos there while I still have the house. I had this amazing exposed brick wall, and I used that for my background for my photos. I took advantage took advantage of what I had, and I love that as a photo background. I thought it worked really well.
Yeah, it's a great example. You can also get a faux exposed brick background easily, you know.
Yes, exactly. You can buy them. You can get them for like $20 on eBay. Yeah. You know, they're not expensive. So. And
one thing that I discovered that I really appreciate is I think it was on Amazon, I also found instead of getting the vinyl or fabric backgrounds, you can get large size paper rolls that they do sell for photo backgrounds. And so they're usually not as wide, but they're wide enough if you're taking pictures of clothing that it should be fine.
Yeah.
And the benefit to that for me was that you never have to worry about it getting wrinkled, or
you don't have to iron.
The vinyl ones, when they arrive, come folded, and they have pretty, you know, thick fold lines in the fabric.
Yeah.
So you do, the first time you get it, you kind of have to let it, you know, they give you instructions, but it takes a couple days and it's a pain. So the roll, you know, it's easy to unroll it, take your photos, roll it back up. If something happens to it, if it tears, you just cut it off, and then, you know, it's a continuous roll, so there's more of it. And I think I paid maybe like $8 or $10 for mine. So that's one item that I really like having.
That's a great tip. And also you can use fabric or sheets or sheets, like bed sheets. You can use poster board from the dollar store for smaller items. So you can really get creative. I use this closet door as a background a lot because it's neutral, and I can easily get, like, if you take it on a neutral plain background, you can easily take out your background in the editing software. Then if you have something more complex with, like, you know, people standing around, or, you know, your coffee pot in the back, or whatever, your kitchen, it's going to be harder to remove the background in those apps. So take it on a neutral background in the beginning so that you can easily, and eBay now has built into their app, they now have a background removal tool, which actually works great. It is just for eBay though, so I tend to cross post a lot of my items, so I will still use like the editing software, but sometimes I do use, you know, as a shortcut if I'm just posting something on eBay. And if you have it on a neutral background already, it's really easy to remove the background, so definitely keep that in mind.
Yes, and especially now with Zoom being so, you know, in demand, there's also more options, and I think some of them are also going to be back ordered, but there's more options for like green screens and stuff on Amazon and eBay that are pretty inexpensive. So you could even get your own green screen, make your own if you want to, with some bright green dye and a, you know, white bed sheet from the thrift store. And then that can be really easy to use as your background, and then edit it out, make it white, add in an image of brick. So you could do your, you know, faux exposed brick that way. There's lots of options.
Yeah, there's a lot. So definitely, but you know, have a nice, and make sure your background does contrast your, you know, if you take a white item on a white wall, it's going to get lost. It's not going to stand out. You know, you're going to want to change your background color. And then also, you know,
sorry, can I just,
no, sorry.
One thing that you demonstrate really well in these photos is also that, like, the mood of the image is really important. So with this one, it's this like really high end,
the Chloe coat. Yeah.
The jacket, it reminds me of, you know, high power big city, girl, and against this brick background, it really kind of speaks to that. And then with the booties, and you have them against this blue background, it's kind of dreamy. It makes me think of like going out to the club, just like having this really amazing day. And so you're kind of creating, like you said, the pictures tell the story. And this is the story not only of what the object actually is, but sort of how the buyer could imagine it in their life. And, this is what big retailers do all the time with how they style things and put them on their models and stuff. But we can do it too with just, a few items at home.
Exactly. And you see too, like in the photo with the yarn, I use my wood deck as a background a lot too.
Yeah, it's great having the
because it looks like there's a lot of backgrounds that are made to look like kind of wood like that, and so I used to use my deck, and it works,
Use the real thing. Okay, and our final tip.
Oh yeah, this is probably the most important one of all.
Yes, back up your photos. So there's tons of reasons why this is important. If you have a listing on eBay and suddenly eBay has a hiccup and all your photos but the first photo is gone, you want to have them backed up. And that actually happened, which probably most people in the chat remember. So you never know what's going to happen. You never know if tomorrow Poshmark disappears and all your listings on Poshmark are gone and you need to move on to another platform. That you want to have your photos backed up. And there's so many ways to do this inexpensively now on the cloud. So I have a Google Fi subscriptions for my phone, and Google Fi comes with a free upgraded Google storage limit. So you already get some free storage with your Google email address or your Google account, and Google Fi makes it like, I don't even remember, so much space that I'll never run out.
Yeah.
So I just automatically sync all my photos with my Google Photos account, and I just know that if I lose them, if something happens to my phone, they're all backed up, they're all there. If you have a buyer issue and you have a return and you need more photo evidence, you will then have all of the photos that you took, even if you didn't use them in your listing, you still have them easily.
Yeah, definitely.
So there's lots of times when you might want to have all of those photos at your fingertips in a couple of places just in case.
Yeah. Yeah, buyers can open cases and so.
I also like to use the photo album feature. So I keep all of my listing photos in one, actually I keep them in multiple albums. I have one album that's all of my photos. I have one that's these need to be listed. So it's really easy to keep track of what's listed and what's not that way. So you can also use your photo storage as sort of part of your process to know what needs to be done.
Yeah. So this happened to me recently. So I had my old iPhone, the screen cracked, and I knew I needed to get a new one, but I was kind of like delaying it, and then the screen stopped working. It stopped functioning. And
it's really bad. I'm amazed you lived with it for so long.
I did. I know. I was like cutting my fingers and everything. I finally got a new phone, but in the meantime, like my old phone actually cracked so bad that it stopped functioning. It was like having lines and all. So the touch screen wasn't working, and it ended up resetting, like locking me out. So I did have the glass replaced just because I thought I could get and then it came back and it had locked me out. So I have to, I can use it as like a second, like basically like an iPad. But the point is I lost a lot of my photos because I didn't buy extra cloud space, and I had run out of cloud space, and I kept saying, oh, I'll do it. Well, I didn't. And I lost not only photos of items that I had taken that I now have to retake, but photos of my kids and stuff. So it's really heartbreaking. I don't even want to think about it. What I did as soon as I got my new phone, I bought more iCloud storage space right away. And it's only like $2.99 a month. I don't know why I didn't do it before. So I have now I'm making sure that everything is backed up.
Yeah. If you don't have Google Fi, I think the Google is like $1.99 a month. It's so cheap.
It's so cheap.
It's so easy to justify. That's a fraction of one sale a month. So
yeah, do not do what I did, because now I have I lost a lot of photos that I already taken of items. Now I got to retake them. And also, if you want to go old school, you can buy a physical backup hard drive too, and back up your photos if you don't have smartphone technology or an iPad or whatever.
Honestly, just do both, because that's
true,
what I did right before I moved, I wanted to make sure that everything was backed up multiple places in case something happened to my electronics while I was moving. So I backed everything up to Dropbox and Google Photos, and then I bought an external hard drive. But
Physical hard drive, yeah.
There's no downside. And again, like things have gone down in price so much. You can buy an external hard drive on Amazon for almost nothing, and
exactly
it's a penny.
Yeah. So
yes, procrastination can hurt. I am also a procrastinator.
Yeah.
I definitely will. And like I said, I really do like doing things in chunks and making sure that, you know, I do one step at a time, but then sometimes I don't do the final step, and then you lose your photos that you already took, and you have to start from zero again. So definitely
what I did.
Do that follow through to make it worthwhile.
Yeah, that just happened to me recently, and I'm kicking myself for. I didn't lose, like, I ran out of space, like it was like a couple months ago, so I didn't lose, like, you know, a year's worth of photos, but I did lose a significant amount that I'm like really bummed, because I had taken so many photos that I have to retake, and not only that, like the invaluable ones of my kids. So
yeah, I mean, at least the item photos you can retake, but the memories are gone. Well, they're in your head, but the photos.
Yeah, exactly. So back up. That's our, and then that's all of our tips.
That's our final tip.
Yeah, we have a couple quick segments.
We do. And I am back on Market Report. I'm so excited. I still have not done, speaking of procrastination, still have a lot of listings to complete, but I did open my stores back up.
Good. That's great news. Yeah.
And I do have a lot of stuff to list, so that I'm in the process of listing.
It's a good time to list right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So Nay, I think you're first though.
Okay, so I think I pay, and that's kind of a question mark on the $4.99. So I recently, you know, went into my storage and got some of my long, like, profit pile. You know, I went into the vault of my profit pile. These were sitting in there for a couple years. Don't remember what I paid for them, honestly, but I do know that I probably got them at the Goodwill, where the pants are $4.99. So I'm going to say that. And I just listed them the other night on Depop for $75 plus shipping. The next morning, I woke up to the sale. Someone had bought them for $75 plus shipping. They just shipped out yesterday. And again, I used in my first photo a close-up of, because they were really funky. The pattern was really
so cool.
You know, yeah, so that was a great sale.
This is an example of when procrastination can pay off, because I bet when you first bought these, you were not selling on Depop.
I was not, and that was the perfect platform. It wasn't any kind of high-end brand. They were retro, not vintage. And, you know, I knew somebody really liked the print and the look of them, and they bought them very quickly. So
awesome.
Yeah. So that was one sale. And then my other sale, I have to thank Jason, because I have sold a ton of CDs because of him. This is one that I had bought at that Goodwill that sells this Target salvage, actually. One that paid $29.99, sold for $24.99 plus shipping.
Not a bad return. Yes. So this is one item that I had in my profit pile for a long time and listed it. Oh my gosh, my cat, Mookie. Sorry.
Oh, it's a men's Lululemon.
It is a men's Lululemon. And I was able to find the style. It did have a small flaw. So I listed it at comps that were only slightly lower than, you know, like new or like new items. So I didn't really expect to get that, but I did get a decent offer. I think it was $24.
Okay.
Super happy with. I paid, I think, $1.99 from my old local thrift store. So it was, you know, I was happy to take that return on it. And Lulu is definitely not as, you know, not. I think it's still in demand. It's just there's more of it available, so the prices are high.
Right, exactly.
So I was happy with that, and they did pay shipping. So, and then this is an item I actually sold before, and then the buyer canceled. I think I sold it for $35 last time. This time I sold it for $40. So,
well, that's good. It's always nice to sell it for more the time around. Yeah, I have a St. John sweater that I'm hoping to sell. It's coming back to me any moment now, and I'm hoping to sell it for more next time. So.
And so this back to back, I had two really decent offers. So I think I also had this listed for like $45 and got an offer for $40, and I was just like, of course, absolutely. I will
your back.
So really nice to see that happening right now, because I was kind of bracing myself for a lot of more low dollar offers right now, since, you know, people are in tougher financial times, which so I totally understand that, but pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely.
And we have some two news stories that I think should be on your radar. So the first one is that Poshmark is coming out with a new feature that has been in works for a while, but they're rushing it out right now because more people are shopping at home. So this is from Forbes, and it says a fashion reseller Poshmark fast tracks video feature. So when I first saw this headline, I thought it was going to be more like what Depop has, where they really encourage you to include a video of your item. But it sounds like it's more like something like Instagram stories or TikTok, where you're actually, you have a feed that you're posting images of, or sorry, videos of your items, and not necessarily directly on the listing. So I think this is super interesting because it definitely shows Mookie. I have to have a talk later. It's a cat. That I think TikTok is becoming an influence on how people are interacting with apps in general. So I am a now say older millennial, and TikTok is not something that it's not a platform I'm on, but I'm actually
really obsessed with it. I have to kind of censor what they watch, but
are your kids on it?
Oh, they're not on it, but they like to watch the videos on it.
Okay, yeah. So I definitely see the videos when they're like cross-posted to Twitter or something, but I think I'm going to take the time to download it just to get an idea of what Gen Z is doing with it, because the vibe I'm getting from this article is that they're really aiming at those buyers and that audience and how they're shopping and how they want.
Has this rolled out already?
I don't think so. I did not have a chance to check if it was on my
Yeah, I don't think it has because I haven't. Yeah.
But so I'll add this link in the description for the video because it is really interesting. It has some information on how Poshmark is doing as a business and sort of what they're thinking about in terms of how they're using like influencer culture to mold how people shop on the app itself.
Yes, so excellent.
Angelique, I'm glad you appreciate Mookie. He is such a handful.
I love him.
Sweet and cute, but he is demanding of my attention and does not like when I'm on the computer. So
and his aunt name misses him.
Yes. He misses you too, but you wouldn't know it because he's chewing on my bag. So that's the biggest news that I wanted to share. And then another thing to have on your radar, this article is from CNBC, and it is that
this is interesting.
Probably going to file for bankruptcy this weekend. So this isn't, we're, I think, beginning to see the impact of the coronavirus taking a toll on the economy, and already fragile retailers like J. Crew, which has been struggling for a while, are obviously going to be hit. So this is interesting, I think, to resellers in terms of people's perception of brands, that maybe J. Crew's will go down if people perceive it as lower quality now that they're just struggling to survive.
Yeah.
May or may not happen, but that's, something to consider.
Yeah.
There also may be more sales. So
that's what I'm thinking. If they do go out of business completely, sometimes, buyers will then want they'll turn just to the second market to get their brand, because there are people that are loyal to the brand. So.
I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Mookie, I don't think he's ever been this poorly behaved.
He's so funny. Yeah, so that's interesting to see what happens there. But
and so it also may be that if they liquidate, then it floods the market and it goes down in value. But we don't really know what's going to happen yet. It's just something to keep an eye on, and also that other businesses will probably be following too.
Right.
So to just to know that this is happening. And on that note, that is the end of our episode for today. So as a reminder, we will be having a special guest, our friend Stacy, on next week to talk about luxury fashion. And we're super excited to learn so much from her. And as always, we have a question for you, which this week we would like to know, what are your favorite photo tips? And thank you for, I don't know if Jason means the whole show or Mookie's antics. I think Mookie's antics. I'm glad you guys enjoy him. I love him dearly. So on that note, if you use any of our tips, if they help you out, we would love to see what kind of photos you take. So, you know, you could tag us on Instagram if you share some of your listing photos on Instagram. Let us know in the comments which ones helped you the most. And then, of course, if you have your own favorite photo tips that we did not address, please feel free to share them. We would love to learn from you as well, and we can all help each other. So we are all over the internet. You can connect with us on Poshmark, Instagram, Depop. I am also on eBay. That's Nay's store. My name is Lo-Fi with 2 dashes between Lo and Fi. And we would love to, you know, see you guys shopping our store. We'd love to give you a good offer. So yeah. And yes, I met Mookie. Yeah, he's pretty epic. I think that's a good word for him.
That was really cool. I kind of liked what he did, actually. It was kind of interesting. But so I also definitely tune in next week, May 8th, same time, Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And Stacy Faraci, our friend, will be talking about luxury fashion. So you don't want to miss it. She is wonderful. She knows her stuff. I often will go to her when I have something to authenticate. I'll say, you know, can you help me with this? You know, she's great. So
absolutely. So we're super excited for that. And have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you next week. Same time, same channel.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.